Hey friends, Dean here. Before we get you on to your episode, I want to take a moment to invite you to our next virtual online trivia night. Wednesday, May 13th at 8 p.m. Join us either on our Facebook group or on our YouTube page for 3 rounds of fun trivia, music questions, movie questions, general knowledge questions. It'll be a fun time and a chance to win some prizes and have just a good relaxing night of some trivia at home. You don't even have to go out for it. So don't forget, Wednesday, March 13th at 8 p.m. Join us on our Facebook group or YouTube for 3 rounds of fun virtual online trivia. We'll see you there. We're breaking down Chapter 5 of the book of Boba Fett. And all I can say is that I have no idea what is going on. Hopefully Erik can help me sort this out. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Erik Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Erik, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome one and all to our weekly breakdown of the Disney Plus limited 7-episode series, The Book of Boba Fett. This is Chapter 5 that we are on. The title of it gives it all away. Mm-hmm. It is The Return of the Mandalorian, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. She has done some directing for The Mandalorian, some expert, really great work for The Mandalorian, both seasons, and of course written again by Jon Favreau. So let's get right into the plot synopsis. So Erik, why don't you give us a recap of what happened?
Okay, there's a lot to digest here. So no longer in charge of Grogu, Din Djarin is back to being a bounty hunter, and after a brutal Darksaber slaughter of a group of Klatooinian butchers, he delivers the head of his latest mark to his client. Retreating to the lower levels of the city, he is reunited with his covert of fellow Mandalorians, now reduced to only the armorer and Paz Vizsla. The Darksaber attracts the attention of Vizsla, and he struggles with Mando to stake claim to it. Vizsla loses. However, Mando reveals to the armorer that he has removed his helmet and is banished from the covert, no longer considered to be a true Mandalorian. Now alone, he travels to Tatooine, where he and Pele Moto, played by Amy Sedaris, build a new ship for him out of an antique. Taking it for a test spin, he eludes interrogation by Captain Teva of the Republic Rangers. Returning to Mos Eisley, Fennec Shand is there to greet and hire Mando to Boba Fett's cause. He agrees, but only after he makes a stop to visit a little friend. So,
did he say little friend or old friend?
Friend. He said little friend.
He said little friend?
Yes, there's no mistaking that, his presence is felt. And
he's looking for somebody.
The absence of.
Okay.
So, where to begin?
I was very excited to see the season premiere of season 3, the episode 1 premiere of The Mandalorian.
Yeah. Right.
I'll get right to the point. I have no idea what this episode is doing in this show. I have no idea why it's here.
Right.
And I don't know at this point what they're doing.
Yeah.
I love the episode.
Yeah.
As a Mandalorian episode.
Exactly.
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, especially the first 25 minutes. But what baffles me is
the first 25. How about the first 55?
Well, I got to tell you, the last 20 minutes for me, no, I did not like at all. I spent 20 minutes on building a hot rod.
Yep.
And that's 20 minutes we could have spent time with Black Chrysanthemum, bringing back, Denny Trejo as all these new characters that they've introduced in the show. We could have spent that time with these people. Instead, we got Pele Moto basically informing us that she used to date Jawas.
Yeah, and they're furry.
This is not what we need right now. Not what we need at all. I mean, this show is struggling as it is, and I don't understand the mindset of the creatives on the show. Yeah, I really don't.
I mean, the whole episode. You got to toss the whole episode out wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
It can, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of great stuff in here, but it has nothing to do with what
exactly
we're watching. And I literally was a few times smiling throughout this episode, laughing to myself that this is nothing to do with what we're supposed to be experiencing and what we're supposed to be learning. He could have they could have easily given us the last 5 minutes of that show. I don't need to see what his struggles were with the Darksaber. I want to know about him, but this is not the series to tell it. He can come,
not the time, right?
And he can show up in the Naboo fighter. I like that. I thought it was going to be a pod racer when she had it covered.
Yeah.
I saw that big engine. I'm like, don't tell me it's a pod racer.
Right.
But it's even better. I mean, I liked what they did with the episode. They souped it up, and that goes to Lucas's love of cars, and they made this thing like a beast.
But it's irrelevant.
But what does it have to do with anything, right?
It doesn't.
You know, and we got to continue. And this was a wholesale continuation of Mandalorian, because he's now wanting to find Grogu.
Yes.
You know, and he went back to, you know, it's a great, and I love Bryce Dallas Howard, by the way. I think she should just direct the whole series. This is nothing against her directorial skills. She paced it well. It was shot.
I totally agree. She's done a much better job than, frankly, Robert Rodriguez has done on this show. Yeah. No doubt about it.
I always liked every episode she directed of The Mandalorian. I enjoyed.
Yeah.
She just does great work, and she understands the material. So I had no problems there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
now, no, you know, make no mistake. I love The Mandalorian. I love the Clone Wars. I love all of this history of where the Darksaber came from. But I'm very disappointed that they kind of just threw it out in all this exposition in 20 minutes time, when this could have been developed more in his own show. Now it seems clear that he's going to walk into his own show, and they're not going to bother to go there again. I mean, I was hoping to see Bo-Katan with him. I was hoping to see so many things, you know, all these possibilities. And they basically just threw all this stuff at us in an episode of a show it's not even his show. It baffles the mind.
Yeah, and for someone that maybe never watched, is it possible somebody never watched The Mandalorian? Sure, it's possible. So they're watching this, and they're getting this full on episode of a character. I mean, it's not likely, but still, when you take it outside of the Star Wars universe, I've never seen a show really do that. Let me rephrase that. This is only 7 episodes. Okay, if this was if this was like 13 episodes, you can throw an episode away.
Exactly.
For development. Right. For 7 episodes, and the pace that the leisurely pace that they're telling this story.
That's right.
This was I think, I'm sorry to say it, I don't know what you're going to do in 2 episodes. This episode could have been about this could have been about the Pikes and the spice and the mining and the mistreatment of those people. We could have learned so much about that. It just tells me that they're, and there's such a great Mandalorian episode. So why can Jon Favreau write a fantastic Mandalorian episode? It was a great Mandalorian episode. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
As a Mandalorian episode, it gets an A.
Yeah.
As a Mandalorian episode, it gets an A. It was great to see him just returning to his job, and he's bounty hunting, but he's still got some things going on. And I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Because we do need to talk a little bit about this episode.
We do. We need to get into some of this.
Some of this
exposition that has, like I said, I mean, because there's a lot there that I didn't cover in the description of, you know, a lot more was going on there when he met up with his fellow Mandalorians there. So, I mean, there's just so much
they kind
there.
of gave you they gave you the what's it about the saber, right?
Yeah.
And wielding it, and that there is a balance between strength and maybe somewhat force sensitivity, because it is a combination weapon.
Yeah.
I liked all the world building. It was great. I mean, to see the forge is there again, and she can make things. And
well, here's the thing. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Okay, so he walks into this slaughterhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I did notice is that how much his body language and how he looked is very reminiscent of Boba Fett. You notice his cape is shorter. He's wearing it off to the side now. He still has the Beskar steel, the spear, which we learned something new here, which a Mandalorian, I guess, is not supposed to have a full-on weapon made of Beskar, which is kind of odd.
Because you could kill another Mandalorian with it then.
So they melted it down, and he melted it down for a gift for Grogu. So
now, what do you think that is? I have an idea of what it is.
I think it's body armor.
I think it's chainmail. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's some kind of body armor.
Because that's when they showed it. When it showed it spilling out, it was all these like little rings.
I think that's.
So I think he's getting like a little what did Frodo wear in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, the
mithril. It was kind of it was kind of it was kind of like that. It was like the Mandalorian version of like a little chainmail.
Exactly. It's like a bulletproof vest or something. Yeah. Which I can't wait to see, frankly. But
it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Yeah. So that was kind of, it was good to get all this stuff. And
but here's what should have happened. Okay, the first 5 minutes, he goes, because if you notice, I mean, that was pretty uncharacteristic of him to be that brutal. We've never seen him exactly chopping heads off and like really going to town on these poor alien guys. I mean, just to get through just to the main guy.
Yeah.
That to me suggests that, okay, what they're trying to say here is that Din Djarin is now Boba Fett. He is the Boba Fett that everybody wants to see. He's the Boba Fett that was. Okay, so now we're faced with this idea that Boba Fett has changed so fundamentally. So what? Now he's going to sit Din Djarin down and say, join my tribe. You don't have a tribe. Join my family. That's probably where what they're trying to do here. That's the thing that I could take away from this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't need 50 minutes, an entire episode to tell us that.
Yeah.
We could have just had the first 10 minutes and then cut to Boba Fett and Fennec Shand looking for him, trying to hire other people, whatever needed to be done. But that's all you needed to see.
Yeah, I'm with you. To your point about the dark saber and all that, I'm not so sure. I think it was more him because he was so brutal, but he also doesn't know how to wield it. He injured himself pretty severely.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was violent because he's got a new weapon because he usually just uses his flame or his blaster. So I think it was him kind of learning to use this weapon and not really realizing that he's pretty much sliced that dude in half. But they also set it up. I don't know that he's going to join Boba Fett because they set it up of the only way you could be redeemed is going to the Mandalore waters. And he said that was destroyed. But I have a feeling that's going to be a quest he's going to get information that there's another pool that he can go to somewhere. Yeah, I think that's going to,
I don't think he's going to actually join, but the offer will stand.
Get it,
And what does this mean? Does Boba Fett is he going in turn help Din Djarin with his quest to become? Is he going to help him, become a Mandalorian again? I mean,
probably not.
There's a lot of possibilities there. And clearly to me, I think the creatives, they must know something we don't. Perhaps maybe they're confident and there is going to be a season 2 of this. Maybe they're just stretching out. Maybe they really haven't confirmed it.
I hope it doesn't cross into Mandalorian season 3. I mean, they got to
Yeah. I mean,
it just
seems
trying
to pull a Marvel here where they're integrating characters into each other's things, but it's not really working in that sense.
It just seems like they ran out of gas and said, let's write a Mandalorian episode because they did it really great. But
there
was a lot of great things when the leader of the Mandalorians, when she was talking about the attack on Mandalore and all those TIE fighters were just like carpet bombing.
Great
scene. And then I think there's a little callback because then they had like the droids like walking on the surface. It reminded me of Terminator 2.
Absolutely.
Or Terminator T2. It was I'm like watching, I'm like, that's a really nice callback because it was done really well.
And that was the droid from Rogue One.
Yeah.
The K2SO droid, Empire droid or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, which was really another neat callback. And I know you're not an Amy Sedaris fan, but I enjoy if we could deal with the mods. Amy Sedaris is a lot more. At least she brings some comic relief, and
No, I love here's what I loved about that whole thing was clearly it I didn't catch it the first time. The first time I wasn't, to be honest with you, I wasn't even really paying attention to the episode because I was just so annoyed that they were spending so much time with Mando, and then and it was clear that this was going to be the entire episode. I went to go make a cup of coffee for myself. So I was kind of half listening to the episode,
settling in,
but what I didn't catch the first time was the fact that she, it's clear that Fennec Shand sent the message to bring him to Tatooine. Because Amy Sedaris is like, what message? But then she just like really picked up on I've got I'm going to make a quick buck here by selling this piece of shit.
Yeah.
and and convincing him that this was the ship that she was going to give him. It was just obviously not the case. So that was fun. That was okay. I was okay with that. You know what I mean? So, and because otherwise it would have been like, how did Fennec Shand know where to find him? How convenient that he just happens to be there and she just shows up at the very end, the last 30 seconds.
Again. And then, he says wizard, which was a callback to,
Phantom
to
Menace,
episode 1, Phantom Menace. And of course, the Naboo Starfighter, obviously. And I was wondering if it was meant to be the one that Anakin flew out of Naboo, because that was like the big thing was him. That was the first thing he piloted in space was the Naboo Starfighter. And then she shoehorned, then Amy Sedaris' character shoehorns the whole. It was just so forced, like, the Pikes. And ever since they started running spice and everybody, the criminal, like, it was just so like awkward.
Yeah, that was the first
put in there just to remind you that you're watching the Book of Boba Fett.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was the most awkward thing. I'm like, it's,
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, it was kind of, it was that.
I was kind of, they're running spice and everything's been bad since they came here.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's so strange.
It really is. And like I said, I hope it's not, I mentioned this before. And I don't know if I mentioned it in the actual episode of last week or we talked about it off record, but I was, I'm fearing that they're going to cram all the stuff we want to see now in the next 2 episodes. And my thing is the penultimate episode should not be, any shorter than this one was. If that's the case, I'm going to be really pissed.
Yeah. Or they're going to, each season needs to kind of be its encapsulated thing. So I don't want to see this kind of, I gotta wait for season 2 to really see the story because they had ample opportunity to develop this story. And it just, is it that this story is so thin?
Maybe. And you know what? It's like, it's almost like they don't have any confidence in the decisions that they're making with the character. Like, you're telling us that he's changing. Show us why. Show us, put us in the present and move the story along.
You had so many options.
Divert our attention, but with this fan service bullshit, which is driving me nuts. I mean, you're literally pulling off. Oh yeah, there's a Naboo starfighter. Like pulling it off the shelf and like playing with it. Like that's what's happening here. It's like it's, and that's that's the worst kind of fan service. For me anyway.
What I thought was neat when the Mandalorian was on the when he had to take mass transit, and he pulls out the little napkin with the arm, what we think is the chainmail. And the way it was tied, it looked like his face.
That was sweet. Yeah,
like with the ears and everything. Yeah, again, they write that so good.
Right.
Like I'm like,
she directs, her direction.
If you want to start, if you want to do the next 2 episodes of Mandalorian, I'm fine with that. If you need to cut your losses and end the Book of Boba Fett at episode 4, I've got a much more interesting story that they built in one episode. They built all this conflict, a mission, what he needs to do. We got it all in one episode that we could have learned, again, a lot of important things about the actual show that we're watching.
I agree.
It could have been Fennec Shand backstory. It could have been any.
Yeah, that's the thing that fans are complaining about, that she's not getting enough screen time. And I totally agree with that. This could have been like her moment where she's actually looking for Din Djarin. She could have showed up on that Halo type space station or whatever it was.
Which I love that, the Ring City. Thank you for mentioning it's Halo, because you're not a video gamer. And
it's a Halo, yeah.
I was afraid I was going to mention it, that it looks like the ring from Halo, but thank you for stepping into the gamer world and mentioning it. So
clearly, I mean, all that.
It could have been her. It could have been her recruiting, her talking to people and getting declined and turned down. And
they could have she could have found him and went on that, like they got waylaid in some side adventure where the two of them are like, or something. That I would have been totally fine with that, because at least you have one of the characters from this show having her moment to shine, and it just didn't happen. I don't know.
So is this considered a blank chapter in the Book of Boba Fett, because he didn't appear in the episode whatsoever, but he got top billing?
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Let's get to the hits. I mean,
let's get to the hits and the misses.
I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to make this short and sweet and say,
go ahead.
Overall, I don't really, as like you mentioned, that as a Mandalorian episode, there was plenty to love, but we're not talking about the Mandalorian here. We're talking about the Book of Boba Fett. So for me, it is a complete miss.
Okay.
It's an F for me.
Sure.
As just the idea of them just
Wow,
diverting our attention.
You skipped right to the grade too. You just
there's nothing more to say. I could break it down, but I'm sorry, but that's just I got to go with my gut here.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna go with I'll give you my hits and my misses.
Okay,
the hit was the Mandalorian. the miss was Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
So we feel the same way, but I felt the
Literally.
need to acknowledge that the Mandalorian was a hit, but that Boba Fett was a miss.
Yeah.
And since you already did it, and I kind of did it in the beginning as well. Episode grade, A for a Mandalorian episode, but this was a flat out F as a Boba Fett episode. Yeah. And again, not that there was anything wrong with the actual episode. The actual episode was a great episode. It's just not in this series.
It clearly doesn't belong, and it's just 100% fan service. That to me, that's what's happening here. I mean, they have to rely on their bread and butter at this point, which is the Mandalorian, their most popular, to save the show. And we don't need that right now.
You could have given us a Boba Fett flashback episode when he was bounty hunting, and like the contrast of what he's learned, how he's come from.
There you go.
There's so many things you could have done within Boba Fett's universe to kind of continue that, even if you're ramping up and you're not ready for the Pike thing yet.
Yeah,
you still have that world to play in. You still have the world of him becoming the daimyo and maybe working with these businesses or whatever. It's just like.
It's a lot like Luke Skywalker, isn't it? From like Last Jedi, they're treating the classic characters with such reverence that we don't need to see them be exactly what we want them to, what we want to see. Yeah. So we never got to see Luke be in his prime as a prime Jedi, right? We cut from him, Return of the Jedi, to him being a grumpy old man, and
broken down,
right? And here it's Boba Fett. He's a little bit older. Let's give him credit where credit's due. Like a lot of people are commenting on how clumsy he is. Well, let's face it. Morrison is 61 years old. The character is older. Mm-hmm. I buy it, but give me reasons to justify it. You know what I mean? That's the thing. That's what I'm frustrated about.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's just it's a head scratcher, unfortunately. Yeah. And after coming off of the high that was last week's episode, where we really thought,
oh yeah,
things were kind of turning around, and we're like, okay, the home stretch, they got 3 episodes to make it work. And I said, we're ready to be wowed and ready to be dazzled. They did dazzle me, but they also puzzled me.
Yeah. Well,
there it is. I don't know. Yeah. So I guess there it is the official score. The official grade is an F for this episode. Yeah. And for Erik as well. Again, not to besmirch anything that Bryce Dallas Howard did. It's not her fault. She did a great job. It was a great episode. It just wasn't it's the right episode, but the wrong show.
Absolutely. So there it is.
Such a downer. Wow. I feel so bad. I feel like bad.
You don't want to be one of the fans that complain, but for God's sake, we want a good story here.
Yeah. First, we're going to give it to you straight. That's the thing.
That's for me. I want a good story that makes sense. I'm not one of these fans that's just content to play in the sandbox with the toys. No. That's it. That's who I am. And, us OG fans seem to get that kind of flack, right? We're the ones that are
grumpy.
Oh, you guys are the ones that complain the most. Well, yeah, because that's the way it was presented to us back in the day.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand that things change, but this is just from a storytelling point of view. This has nothing to do with what they're presenting and anything. It's just, you don't put a random episode of something else in another show. Right. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, maybe the next episode will be so wizard that we'll forget.
I hope so.
That we'll forget about this one. But
oh man, they really
now they've only got 2 episodes to shoehorn the
that's
fake
right.
Han Solo in. Countdown begins. So that's going to wrap it up for this very frustrating episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett. We've got 2 more episodes left of this limited Disney Plus 7 episode series. We are hoping. This is the lowest point we've been at in this series. I was a little more of a Debbie Downer than Erik. Erik was a little more hopeful, but now I've dragged him down to my depths of depression. or did he come and meet me on his own accord?
Well,
either way, We're hoping for 2 more episodes. We are going to be here to break those episodes down as well. Love them or hate them. You're going to hear what we really feel about them from 2 Star Wars fans. That's going to do it for this breakdown of the Book of Boba Fett, episode 5. Check us out every Monday. We've got 2 more episodes, and we will wrap this up for you. For Erik, this has been Dean. Episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett coming in 7 days.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Erik Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.